We're back! Hey guys, Connor and I are here again, and we're going to read The Golden Lion Tamarin Comes Home Now by George and Connor. Good picture.
I know, right?
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Whistling softly as she scans the upper canopy of leaves, Andrea Martin leads her sister Carolina and brother Renato through the rainforest. It's hard and humid. The small group is surrounded by the teeming life of the tropical forest. Birds sing, insects buzz, cicadas chirp. Nearby they hear a tractor engine, cattle lowing, a rooster, and men at work on a fazenda or farm. They pick their way carefully along the narrow path to avoid the sharp spines of leaves and the tangle of vines underfoot. Andrea raises her hand and the group stops. Above them, the leaves rustle, the branches sway as streaks of orange gold flash in the speckles of sunlight. Mikos, she whispers to the children and points to the cluster of golden lime tamarins staring down at them from the branches of the trees. Their high-pitched whistles and squeaks pierce the air. Mico is short for Mico Leão Dourado, the Portuguese name for the golden lion tamarin of Brazil. About the size of a squirrel, the monkey is named for its color and lion-like mane. The golden lion tamarin is found only in the coastal rainforest of southeastern Brazil, flanked by a mountain range in the west and the Atlantic Ocean on the east. The forest once stretched for 1,500 miles. When the first Europeans arrived, they cut down the trees to build their homes and towns. They burned the rest of the forest to clear the land for settlements, for coffee and sugar plantations, and for pastures on which to graze livestock. The city of Rio de Janeiro grew and spread. Today, only 2% of the original rainforest remains, scattered like small islands in a sea of farms and towns. As its native habitat disappeared, so did the golden lion tamarin. By 1960, there were so few left that Dr. A. Gombria Filho, a Brazilian biologist, warned of its imminent extinction. He urged the Brazilian government to set aside the remaining forest as a wildlife refuge. The Poco das Antas Biological Reserve, a protected habitat, was established in 1973. The tall trees in the tropical rainforest offer the tamarins food, protection from predators, and a network of roots through their territories. The cup centers of bromeliads, plants that live in host trees, hold water and insects for the monkeys to drink and eat. Tamarins are omnivorous. They eat not only fruit, seeds, and nuts, but also bird eggs, insects, frogs, and snakes, which provide additional protein. What a wonderful diet they have, huh?
Yep.
The rainforest is alive both day and night with a diversity of wildlife. Among the trees can be seen sloths and other species of monkeys. Tamarins must always be on guard for predators. Above them fly owls, while on the ground prowl ocelots, feral dogs, and the most dangerous of all, humans. Poachers trap the tamarins and sell them in illegal animal markets for high prices. If discovered, these pets are confiscated and returned to the reserve. Oh, look how cute. Today, golden lion tamarins are bred in many zoos around the world. These animals do not have the skills to survive in the wild on their own. A captive tamarin lives in a confined space, climbs sturdy poles that don't move, and is served its food in a bowl at regular hours by familiar keepers. It has never leaped from a vine to a delicate tree branch that sways under its weight. It doesn't know how to forage for its food. It hasn't experienced weather changes, cold, rain, thunder, and lightning. It would be killed by predators or get lost and starve. It needs the help of humans and that of native-born tamarins to learn to survive independently in its original habitat. Since 1983, Dr. Benjamin Beck and his staff at the National Zoological Park in Washington, D.C., has been trying to find ways to prepare captive-born tamarins for their return to the rainforest. Dr. Beck coordinates the reintroduction of the tamarins into their natural habitat for the Golden Lion Tamarin Conservation Program. By the way, we go to a zoo in New Bedford, and I doubt we'll go this year, but we actually get to see Golden Lion Tamarins. They're in the zoo, so maybe you can go on your own. The tamarins being reintroduced often come from other zoos and are examined carefully when they arrive at the National Zoo. A different number is tattooed onto each animal's leg and entered into a record of all the tamarins born in captivity. As an experiment, tamarins are being permitted to live free in a wooded section of the zoo. Because they are territorial, they stay close to their nesting boxes, which are wired vertically high in the trees. The nesting box is a modified picnic cooler with two chambers inside, one above the other. In the top chamber is a hole through which the tamarins enter and leave. Should a predator attack, the tamarins huddle in the lower chamber, where a groping paw cannot reach them. A tamarin claims its territory by rubbing a scent from its body onto the tree limbs. The ones that will someday be reintroduced into the wild wear radio collars that transmit a constant beep, enabling the keepers to locate them in the woods. The tamarins are fed by food trays raised to the height of their nesting boxes. Ropes are hung to simulate vines and to provide a network of tree-top highways for the monkeys. The ropes in the nesting boxes are often changed while the tamarins are asleep to help prepare them for the unexpected. The dilemma for the zoo is how to protect the animals and still expose them to the experiences and dangers they will meet in the wild. Observers watch and record everything the monkeys do. To tell the tamarins apart, they mark their tails with hair dye. Each member of the tamarin family has its own distinctive tail marking. When the time is right, the monkeys are shipped by air from Washington, D.C. to Rio de Janeiro. Andrea Martins is one of the many people in Brazil and abroad working to save the Golden Lion Tamarin. She coordinates a team of observers who roam the rainforest, tracking tamarins and observing their behavior. The team's notes are sent to the National Zoo, where scientists in the conservation program use them to help prepare captive-born tamarins for their reintroduction into the rainforest. In Rio de Janeiro, Andrea and Leonzano Moraes Pesamillo, director of the reserve, carry bags of fruit when they meet a shipment of 7 tamarins that arrives from Washington, D.C. After the overnight flight, the squealing monkeys are hungry, and they gobble up the pieces of fruit that Andrea and Dionzio squeeze into the cages. Then the noisy cages are loaded into a van for the 2-hour trip to the reserve. Golden Lion tamarins tend to be monogamous, which means a male and female will live together and mate only with each other. This shipment includes a family of 4 from one zoo, the mother, the father, and a pair of 1-year-old twins, 1 male and 1 female. The other 3 tamarins come from different zoos and will be used to create new families. Because there are so few tamarins left in the wild, they keep reproducing among themselves. Introducing animals that are born in distant zoos helps to strengthen the gene pool of the native tamarins. Genes carry the characteristics of a species from one generation to the next. The van and the observation team meet on a narrow road in the forest. The tamarins are unloaded and carried into the woods where large cages await the immigrants. They are released into the cages where they will grow accustomed to their new surroundings. Everything is different. The heat, the tall trees, the noises. The Tamarins will get to know their potential prey, such as the insects and small reptiles and mammals that scoot in and out of their cages. Beyond the cages stalk their predators, which they must learn to avoid. The reserve is located a few kilometers from the town of Silva Jardim, where Andrea lives with her mother and 10 brothers and sisters. Every morning, Andrea and her sister Alea, who is also an observer, cut up fruit and canned marmoset food. The canned food, which provides needed protein, is exactly what the Tamarins ate in the zoo. The pieces of food are then stuffed into feeders made of plastic tubes wired together to make a square with holes drilled along the tubes. Andrea crams bits of food into the holes. This encourages the Tamarins to use their long fingers and nails to extract the food, just as they will probe in trees and rotted logs once they are released. Meanwhile, Alea fills canteens with water. By 7:30 a.m., the van is loaded with the feeders and canteens. The sisters tuck their camouflage pants into their socks to keep out insects and jump into the van. The Golden Lion Tamarin Conservation Program has provided many jobs for people in Silva Jardim, a small town that is located near the main highway to Rio. The Plaza, with its tall shade trees, bandstand and playground, sits in the center of town. Andrea stops at the plaza to pick up more of the observation team. When waiting for them to arrive, she works out the assignment for each one. Each day, an observer is assigned to a different group of Tamarins. The observation group is split into two groups. One group goes to the reserve, while the other goes to the fazendas, where Tamarins have been reintroduced. Originally, the fazenderos, or farmers, were hesitant about accepting the monkeys on their forest land. But now they speak of them as maimicos. Andrea drives through the forest, stopping every so often to drop off an observer. Each carries a canteen and a machete on a belt, as well as a backpack with food, rain gear, a snakebite kit, and mosquito repellent. Sounds like a great place. Everyone carries a compass, a digital watch, a notebook, and an antenna and radio receiver for the tracking of the Tamarins. A full Tamarin feeder carried on the shoulder completes the equipment each observer takes into the woods. Today, the newly arrived Tamarin family of 4 will be released. They have spent enough time in the large cage to be accustomed to the climate of the rainforest. In addition to its own tail marking, each monkey has another mark on its body that identifies the family to which it belongs. One Tamarin in the group wears a new radio collar. Andrea and Paulo Cesar, another observer, carry the nesting box into the woods. They have selected a tree in the area that the Tamarin family can claim as their own. Paulo Cesar nimbly climbs the tree with a rope and wire on his shoulder. When he reaches a fork about 20 feet above the ground, he drops one end of the rope to Andrea. She ties it to the end to the nesting box, and Paulo Cesar hoists it up and wires it in place. With the rope draped over a branch, she drops both ends to Andrea so she can raise a feeder up to the box. Finally, Paulo Cesar uncovers the opening of the nesting box and slides down to the ground. Then they both sit down to see what will happen. A young Tamarin pokes its head out of the box, looks around and squeals. Then the other golden heads appear to take a look. After some tentative moves, the juvenile darts out of the feeder, pokes into it, and stuffs food into its mouth. Below, Andrea glances at her watch and writes in a notebook. For the first hour, she describes what the entire group is doing. the way they eat, socialize, and rest, and the sounds they make. Then she notes what each member of the family does. In order not to give the Tamarins human characteristics, the observers do not give them names. Instead, they identify the monkeys by letters that represent the zoo that they came from and numbers that symbolize their position in the group. For example, KO1 is the adult female from the zoo in Cologne, Germany. KO2 is the adult male. And KO3 and KO4 are their offspring. At first, the newcomers stay close to the nesting box. Away from their new home, they may become disorientated and get lost. Alone, a newly reintroduced tamarin can die of starvation. You got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Become injured or fall prey to a predator. This is when the tamarins need the most help. They are given plenty of food and water. Oranges and bananas are hung on the branches for them. Because the tamarins have always eaten chopped fruit, they don't know how to peel whole fruit. The bananas are partially open for them, and the oranges have windows cut into them. As the months go by, the feeder is placed farther from the nesting box. Fruits are placed on saplings that will sway when the tamarins leap onto them. When the tamarins begin to forage and eat natural foods, the observers reduce their visits to 3 times a week, then to once a week, and finally to once a month. When the tamarins become independent, all feeding is stopped. Bit by bit, the family becomes familiar with the rainforest, the younger ones adapting faster than the parents. But only 30% of all reintroduced tamarins survive more than 2 years. Some die by eating poisonous fruits or snakes. Some are killed by Africanized or killer bees, or sometimes take over a nesting box to make a hive. The infants that are born in the wild fare much better than the reintroduced tamarins. They are more acrobatic and confident as they leap from limb to limb. They are able to deal with surprises, and they don't have to unlearn behaviors that were adequate for zoo life, but are useless in the forest. The goal of the Golden Lion Tamarin Conservation Program is to have 2,000 tamarins living in the wild by the year 2025. For this to happen, people who live in and around the rainforest have to help protect the tamarins and their environment. That way, human beings and tamarins will be able to share the Brazilian landscape for years to come. Okay, they're very cute, and I hope you like that story about the Golden Lion Tamarin. Okay, bye.